You saw some very big competitors going out of the market. We're talking about sort of Monarch, we're talking about Alitalia, etc. They're out of the market. Therefore, I'm wondering whether these great numbers that you're posting are sustainable. Does eventually the effect of those businesses going under start to wash out of the numbers that you're posting?
Well, thank you very much. Good morning. Yeah, I mean, it is, as you said, it's a fantastic set of results that we are delivering. It's one of the best winter results that we ever had, actually. So I'm extraordinarily delighted for everybody in the company. I think there are two primary reasons behind the results that we are seeing. One is that there is a strong underlying demand for what we do. The company's been focusing on really value for money for many years. And I think that in combination with, as you say, that there has been the difficulties among some of the competitors that you were mentioning, whether that was Monarch or Alitalia or Air Berlin, and also the withdrawal of capacity from Ryanair. But I would also say that the other factor behind the results that we've seen for the winter is really the attraction of the brand. We are now considered the most, the most considered airline brand in the UK, ahead of British Airways for the first time. So I think those are the two main components behind these results.
How long, just to come back to what we talked about a moment ago, how long does it take, how long will you benefit from those businesses going under? How long does that actually continue to be a factor in the market?
Well, we see capacity is coming out, of the market. It usually tends to go in relatively quickly. I think for the summer that we have ahead of ourselves, we recognize that about 20 to 30%, for instance, of the Monarch capacity is coming back in again. But it remains to see what the competitors will do in terms of the pricing, as an example. But when capacity comes out in this industry, it tends to go back in again relatively quickly.
Farnborough is coming up. You bring up the issue of capacity. Let's talk a little bit about your capacity. Farnborough is coming up, the air show, usually an opportunity for airlines to meet with the OEMs and maybe place some orders. Can we expect, should we look for maybe EasyJet buying a few more 320s, any conversions maybe in the existing order book? Can you just walk us through how you see your capacity developing from here?
No, we have a fleet order that we're happy with at the moment. So there's going to be a new agreement signed in regards to more aircrafts coming in. We do have flexibility in our fleet. We are, as you said, we have converting airplanes, and it's been actually the 320s that we converted into the 321s with 235 passenger seat capacity on, which is a fantastic way to us to continue to grow and expand in slot-constrained airports where we're operating. But there's no fleet order that is about to happen in the short term.
Right. Okay. But can you see more? Can you see more conversions coming through? As you say, those extra seats can be useful.
Yeah, so we have the flexibility in the arrangements and the agreements that we have with Airbus. We have a very strong relationship with Airbus. We are, the world's largest customer for them when it comes to the A320 family as well. So we have that flexibility to do, and we have the ability to adapt according to the demand that we see out in Europe.
Yeah, can I ask you about your thoughts on Willie Walsh's conversation with Norwegian, and I don't know whether they actually spoke to Bjorn, but I'd be interested to know what your thoughts are on what that signals and whether or not that has kind of encouraged you to think more about long haul as well.
Well, a couple of things. I do think it's more of a signal that we're going to see further consolidation taking place in Europe. If you take EasyJet as an example, we're the second largest airline when it comes to European short-haul travel, but we still only have 10% market share. So while I wouldn't say that the market perhaps is fragmented, it certainly is a number of players who are participating in this market. So I do think there will be more consolidation. Look, we're not interested in flying long haul ourselves. In fact, we actually have a commercial arrangement with Norwegian and others in terms of participating in selling some of their long haul products, where we are utilizing the short haul European network that we have to feed into airlines, and one of them would be Norwegian, which is good because we're participating in the long haul sector without having to buy very expensive long haul aircrafts.
You talk about the kind of the fragmented nature of the market. Some of the smaller operators, and you talk to Michael O'Leary about this, and he talks about this a lot. Some of the smaller operators are less hedged. Oil's gone up an awful lot of late. Those less hedged airlines, therefore, are going to be more exposed at the petrol pump, as it were. When you talk about that kind of fragmentation, do you see yourself taking that sort of capacity over if it were to become available sort of organically, or do you think about the consolidation story? You kind of mentioned consolidation. How does it actually work?
Well, I mean, in terms of the hedging, I mean, EasyJet is in a very strong position on that. We've hedged now 73% of the fuel requirement for the year. And actually for the next year, we're over half of the requirement is already hedged. And one thing is the smaller players out there, but there are also, you know, relatively big players there who doesn't have the balance sheet and have the strength to hedge as well. And they are running into some big exposures. That will have an effect on the pricing. That will have an effect on how much of their aircraft they're actually going to fly. And that also affects and changes the competitive landscape. So I think we're in a good position to also organically grow and be stronger in that market, as you will see that perhaps some of them would need to ground their aircrafts or increase their prices, which we don't need to do, or we will have it passed on to the consumer and therefore get more demand.
Johan, the stock is trading up pretty well this morning, one of the best performers around Europe. Thank you very much indeed for speaking with us. Johan Lundgren, EasyJet's CEO.